Welcome to Jefferson County Post Sports. Our high school action today is sponsored by Angie State Farm, Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. I'm David Swann, and today my co-host is Angie Stanley, photographer and staff writer for the Post. Nice to have you here, Angie.
Well, thank you so much for having me. This is my first time being on the show, and I really appreciate you guys asking me to come down.
Look forward to hearing your expertise. Today we're going to focus on the South Doyle game. The Patriots played South Doyle, and unfortunately they lost 63-53. You were at that game. What are your impressions?
Overall, they never did get into a rhythm, it seemed like. First half went phenomenal. It looked like the boys were on fire. The passing was great, and they very limited fouling. But it's when they come back from halftime, it's when they really started falling apart.
That's kind of a hallmark of a young team sometimes. Trouble sustaining through a game, trouble when maybe adjustments are made at halftime to try to counteract what the other team is doing. And this is a pretty young team, isn't it?
It's a very young team. They lost several seniors last year, and so they're still in the rebuilding stages. Right now, Noah Carter and a couple other people, or a couple of their guys, are the only seniors they have. And so they're still trying to find their place in the leadership of the team, along with those freshmen and sophomores that are
kind of fitting in as a cohesive unit and finding their roles like that. It's difficult when you transition from a star player to a leadership role. It takes on a whole new meaning in a game, doesn't it?
Yeah, the dynamics of being in a leadership role, you've got to learn how to delegate. You've got to learn how to not try to get all the points. You got to learn how to pass the ball. You've got to learn how to not only play with your team, but drive that team to be in the victorious spot that you want them to be.
And being such a young team and some players new to their roles, we expect that they will continue to improve in this. There was a player that stood out in this game. Danny Bates is our Angie State Farm player of the game. Can you tell us a little bit about Danny's performance?
Danny ended the game with 15 points, I believe. Yeah. He really honestly stood out, especially in the first half. You could tell he was getting worn down and tired, and him and Noah come in a second best with 11 points. And they were pretty much carrying the rest of the team on them right there. There were several missed shots by several key players, but they did more than make up for it, especially with Noah in the 3-point range. He was running, I think I averaged it out to about 70% from 3-point range, which is a pretty big deal. But they do need to step up and become the leaders that they are. We've seen Noah's leadership on the football field, and I'm really excited to see what he can do on the basketball court.
And with Danny coming in and providing that scoring punch to help him out, hopefully big things are coming for the Vols. We'd like to congratulate Danny Bates, who is our Angie State Farm player of the game. Remember, Angie Cox is a wonderful sponsor. She's at Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. And we'd like to thank her for her sponsorship. Welcome back to Jefferson County Post Sports. It's now time for our Big Orange Breakdown, brought to you by Volunteer Spirits, 921 Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. Reminding you, if you drink, please drink responsibly. We're back with our co-host, Angie. Angie had an opportunity to witness a really tough loss by the Lady Vols when they fell 57-43 to Virginia Tech. That is not what we're used to seeing from our Lady Vols, is it?
It is not, and we have several players out with injuries. With the key player being Courtney Dunbar. Bless her heart, she just injured her ankle walking around in a boot. She is one of their lead scorers, one of their best rebounders, and other than Mercedes Russell, she's got the most height. Everybody else is, you're running a team full of freshmen and sophomores.
Yes, and in fact, this is a team that even before injuries hadn't really found themselves, had they?
Now, they were beginning to get into a rhythm with Syracuse.
Okay.
But then, unfortunately, with the injuries reports, and for some reason, there's a lot of discord in between the players and with Coach Holly. She pretty much said, if you guys are quitting on me, I'm quitting on you, and sat
Yeah.
at the end of the game.
And that's kind of an interesting press conference that you were able to sit in. What was that like? How was her demeanor during that? I know she's frustrated with how her team's been playing.
She's very frustrated with how her team's been playing. She has she's got the depth.
Mm-hmm.
She really does. But unfortunately, they are not following her direction, and they cannot get any discipline as far as fouls go. The last 2 games that they lost against Virginia Tech, and they also lost against Texas. And honestly, in the fourth quarter, that is what lost those games, were the fouls.
Yeah. Kind of a lack of discipline is the theme there, isn't it?
Yeah, there is a total lack of discipline. There's a total lack of control. And it's been very hard for Coach Holly to go and tell them, to get it through to them, this is what you need to do to win these games.
That's frustrating for a coach, isn't it?
It's very frustrating for a coach. From a coach's standpoint, if they're not following your direction and your key players are out, the ones that you have groomed and you have gotten to follow your direction, and these are natural leaders that they have sitting on the bench right now. Unfortunately, with such a young team, there's only so much you can do.
But there is good news. The good news is Holly has a track record,
Mm-hmm.
and we know that she'll wrangle this team back in, and the talent is clearly there, isn't it?
The talent is clearly there. You got Carter, who is consistently one of the highest scoring players. She's got a bum knee right now, but she's still continuing to play. And she's only a freshman. And also you got Alexia Middleton, who was benched this last game, but I think that was going to be the only game that she was going to be out. She is a very dynamic player, phenomenal from the 3-point range if she can get control of herself.
Absolutely, and of course we hope that Holly is able to not only pull this team in, but not be so frustrated herself. I know as somebody who's been a huge part of the Vol program for years and years and years, it's just frustrating to see her have to go through that kind of frustration.
It is very frustrating because, from a fan standpoint, not only am I a writer, but I'm also a fan, we're used to consistently seeing the Vols in a top 5 capacity. Well, the standings haven't come out after yesterday's loss, but after the loss to Texas, we got dropped down to number 8. And so with this loss against Virginia Tech, it could be detrimental to our standings. But on a different note, we're still very easily one of the best teams in the SEC. Luckily, both of our losses have come out of league.
And I would be very surprised if Holly doesn't find a way to turn it around.
I would be too.
Coach.
She's very good, and she's got the dynamics. And honestly, her frustration comes because she cares about her players so much. And she knows the potential, and she knows what she has. So she's just the main focus now is getting them back on track. She seems to think that going on the road for the next couple weeks is going to help them regain their focus. You get a little comfortable. I mean, you just had a 3-week run from home.
Mm-hmm.
You were literally playing a game every 3 days, but it was on your home court. So it's going to be it's going to be a shock to the Lady Vol system.
I think
and
so.
I really think it's going to help them regain their focus.
Well, and maybe that's the impetus they need to get through to them. What she believes is they can be great. She believes that.
They definitely can be great. They've got, just to focus. They've got so much talent wrapped up in these young ladies. And, most of these girls are fresh out of high school. So once they get used to playing Division I ball, there won't be any stopping them.
Yeah, and the system. Once they get used to do what Holly is asking them to do,
Mm-hmm.
that's how you're successful. So we look forward to hopefully them making a rebound and coming back a little bit. Shift gears a little bit here, sticking with the Vols though, the Outback Bowl.
Outback Bowl.
Wow. And I think it was pretty close to the Citrus Bowl too, just for the record.
I really honestly think so too. Me personally, I thought we were going to go up against Michigan.
Yeah,
I really did.
In fact, I kind of think the grapevine is saying that the Citrus Bowl would prefer a Tennessee-Michigan matchup, but the SEC being so involved in bowl placement really wanted to keep Florida in that slot, and I understand that. It's very understandable. But still, Tennessee was saying up front, what we want is the best team we can play. We want the highest ranked team we can play in the best bowl we can get, and they got Northwestern. And that's a highly ranked team. I think Tennessee fans and the Tennessee program is looking forward to taking on a really respected Northwestern team.
They are, and I mean, the thing is the only two losses that they got were against Michigan and Iowa. Iowa, we all seen what we did with Iowa, but that Michigan game was a very tough loss for a Northwestern team. I don't think it was a fluke. I really honestly think that the loss to Michigan was just to show the sheer distance that Michigan had come. So I really honestly think it's going to be a very tough matchup.
Now see, this is where your host and your co-host can disagree a little bit. We still love each other, but I think Northwestern is a perfect matchup. In fact, I think outside of Ohio State, and possibly in a couple of years when Michigan is able to recruit back to the level that they're used to being at, I think that the speed difference in the Big Ten is still apparent. Now, not Ohio State, you take them off the table, they're as fast as any SEC team. But Northwestern, good football team. Mm-hmm. How are they going to match up with the speed that Tennessee now brings to the program? It's been a while. Last year was the first year that Tennessee brought that speed, and we were so young. Now they've matured a little bit, and we still have that speed. How do you see Northwestern matching up with that?
Well, the Northwestern defense is one tough defense. Yeah. If our O-line and special teams can open up that gap for Cam Sutton, there won't be any stopping. But the inconsistencies in our O-line sometimes, it's really hard to tell. They go in there, they're focused. We're going to walk all over Northwestern. But they get in there and they play the win against North Texas was a really good win, but the O-line was just falling apart.
Yeah. And you really hit the nail on the head. It's a matter of focus. Who shows up? There would be a lot of Big Ten fans and a lot of Iowa fans, and perhaps rightfully so, who would say last year was a little bit skewed in the bowl because Iowa wasn't as interested in being there as Tennessee was. Bowl games often come down to who really wants to be in that game and play that game. I have a hard time seeing Tennessee trying to claw their way back into national prominence and not being ready for that game.
Exactly.
I suspect Northwestern will probably be up for that challenge as well, thinking, hey, we've got this SEC opponent, let's shut up that Southern Conference that likes to run their mouth. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll see the best of both sides. It certainly would be an interesting matchup. Northwestern is going to struggle a little bit offensively. It's not necessarily their forte. They don't have the most dynamic offense.
No.
But as you mentioned, their defense is really good, and they have a win against an opponent that's really a top-notch opponent in Stanford.
Mm-hmm. Exactly, and I was actually watching film from the Stanford game this morning, and their defense locked tight against Stanford. Yeah. And the Big Ten, not as dynamic as the SEC, but they're
getting better.
They're getting better, and they have something to prove.
Mm-hmm. They do. That's been our Big Orange Breakdown, brought to you by Volunteer Spirits, 921 Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee, reminding you, if you drink, please drink responsibly. Welcome back to Jefferson County Post Sports. This is our fifth quarter, brought to you by the Dandridge General Store, located in historic downtown Dandridge. I'm David Swann once again, and this is Angie Stanley. We're going to talk a little bit about the direction of the Lady Vols program, and they're trying to recover. We mentioned that they're in this kind of slump right now and a downturn in the program. Short term, hopefully, where do you see the program in the next few days, the next few weeks?
Well, the next couple weeks they're going to be on the road. Before the Christmas break, they've got Wichita State, Stanford, and Oregon State.
Oh, Stanford.
Yeah, at Stanford. The Wichita State and Oregon State games hopefully are guaranteed wins. Stanford is going to be a very tough component. Their defense and their rebounding has been phenomenal so far this season.
Would it be safe to say that the team play and the way they follow Holly's system in the two wins that are maybe a little bit guaranteed, and then just playing good team ball against Stanford, even if they may fall. That's what we're looking for.
That is exactly what we're looking for. And also what we're looking for is the shots percentage needs to go up. They're only running anywhere between 30 and 40% from the field, which in Division I basketball is pretty much unacceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Shifting gears ever so slightly, the men recently had a transfer out of the program that opens up a new slot on the roster. What do you think Coach Barnes may do with that slot?
Well, historically, with his tenure at Texas, what he has been known to do is do a junior college transfer. He started scouting out junior colleges, looking for standouts, looking for somebody who would really just kind of slide into Division I ball and have the grades to back it up. Mm-hmm. Because that's one of Coach Barnes' really big things is he needs to see success on the court and off the court.
Absolutely. In fact, he recently set some of his seniors in a game and basically said, if you're not going to do what I ask you to do, I'll lose with young players and we'll build for the future. Mm-hmm. Which kind of building for the future is what I kind of think he may do with this slot. Really need some low post defense. It'd be great if they can score, but really need some low post defense. And I think a transfer, maybe even a transfer from another Division I program, who could transfer in at the Christmas break and sit out the first part of next year. But whoever it is, it would very much surprise me if it's not a big man.
He needs some height.
Yeah. He
needs some height. Don't get me wrong. The guys that he got have been hitting the weights hard. Mm-hmm. They are beefing up. But he needs some height to
protect the rim.
To protect the rim. Because their rebound percentage has been very low. Mm-hmm. And so unfortunately with that, you're gonna need a bigger guy.
A couple of young guys that are doing well, young big men, still learning to play the game, still beefing up, as you said, but they just need an extra person in that rotation. We're going to hold off on prediction for the Outback Bowl. We've got a little while before that bowl game, and we'll bring that to you at a later date. But the direction of the football program kind of comes to mind at this time of year. And we've seen Butch Jones have a resurgence of the program back to the days of Philip Fulmer, back to the days of Johnny Majors, when we felt we were competitive pretty much all the time. What are some of the signs that you've noticed that lead you to think, well, maybe we're pretty close to back?
The fan involvement.
Okay.
I've not seen this much fan involvement in probably maybe even 10 years.
Yes.
The fan involvement, the consistently running 98 to 110,000 fans at the stadium, even against smaller teams. That plays a major part. Mm-hmm. And also the success that his guys have, not only on the field, but he's also like Coach Barnes with the basketball program. He wants them to be active in the community. He wants them to make the good grades. Dobbs is carrying a 4.1.
Yeah.
And so with that, with the success off the field, the success on the field is following very quickly.
Absolutely.
He's still got a bunch of young guys. He didn't lose very many seniors this year at all. So we were literally 17 points away from being a national championship contender.
Absolutely.
Which, in somebody's third year of coaching, is unheard of.
And a lot of the things that you're mentioning go to that word, the word that he mentioned straight off when he first got hired, culture. Changing the culture. Mm-hmm. And I really think he's accomplished that so far. He's changed the culture.
I think so too. He's got the personality and the persona. Not only do the guys respect him as coach, but also as a leader. Mm-hmm. And he's really stepped up to bring the leadership role, not just for himself, but in his assistants and also in his lead players.
Absolutely. And if there's two things that you could say that the team needed, a little bit more depth and just a handful of more playmakers. And both of those are things that he's looking to get on this recruiting trail. He's gone a little bit heavier into junior college for some playmakers. And those players also provide immediate depth. So, if you hit on 2 or 3 of them as playmakers, that can make the difference in one of those overtime games. Mm-hmm. And if you hit on several of those guys as just rotation players, it just provides a little bit more depth, so when injuries hit, you're not as devastated by it.
Exactly. And also, I firmly believe with the way that he's put the team together just this season, if we were to play Oklahoma now, I really honestly believe that it would be a completely different outcome. Completely.
Absolutely. And in fact, you know, when we look back on it, I know ifs are kind of, you know, not, you can't hang your hat on an if, but if they had been able to close out that Oklahoma game, could the confidence they had coming from that have made a difference in Florida and a difference in Arkansas? And I think every Tennessee fan is thinking that over the holidays. Every Tennessee fan, that's on their mind. And I think the national media is starting to pick up on that. And I think we're going to be a pretty trendy pick next year to be a contender.
And honestly, the fact that we gave Alabama a run for their money.
Absolutely. That was not a mismatch.
That was not a mismatch.
It was the first time in many years that it was not a mismatch. And in fact, Alabama doesn't play very many games that it's not a mismatch.
Exactly. The fact that we gave Alabama trouble really shows me a promise for the future of the Tennessee football program and what Coach Jones is potentially going to do with this program, even as soon as next season.
Angie, thank you for being here today.
It was all my pleasure.
I'm David Swann. This is Angie Stanley. And that's been our fifth quarter, brought to you by Dandridge General Store, located in historic downtown Dandridge. We'd like to thank all of our sponsors today: Angie State Farm, Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee, Volunteer Spirits 921, Highway 92, Jefferson City, Tennessee. And they'd like to remind you, if you drink, please drink responsibly, and to Dandridge General Store.